Christine, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. I don't even know where to begin because I feel like your bio is just so amazing. I mean, you're a coach, you've got your own podcast, you've written multiple books. Let's just start there. Tell us about how did you get to where you are today and kind of what was, I mean, you just had so much success uh,
Thank you.
to be where you are right now. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story
Sure.
and the background.
Yeah, so I grew up in central New Hampshire in this beautiful valley of the White Mountains. And I went off to college at 18 on scholarship. So education for me was like really, really important when I was young.
Mhm.
I had to work really hard to get to school. And then while I was school, I was the understudy of a female originator. And even though I was going to school for sports medicine and nutrition, I caught the bug for the banking industry.
Uh-huh.
And if you fast forward 35 years, I've had a really incredible ride within the mortgage industry and in the finance space.
Mhm.
I would start out leaving college and not going into my field and going in to the banking field, becoming a loan originator. I was processing and assisting an LO, as I said, in the college years.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. I was very competitive. And if you look under the hood of my career, I would become a branch manager, an originating branch manager, and then later a district manager. And at the time that I became a district manager, there were not a lot of higher ranking women. And
Mhm.
as in fact, I worked for H&R Block Mortgage at that time, and there had been no women that had been
Mhm.
at that level. I would go on to become the regional vice president. I became the senior vice president, which is when I really got notoriety.
Mhm.
I would end up closing that division for H&R Block down during the mortgage implosion,
Mhm.
which was an act of preservation towards the shareholder price on Wall Street.
Yep.
And I would write a book that became a bestseller called Wise Eyes See Your Way to Success, including the sad part of that story, which is the end and the demise of that leg of my career. And then I would take about 50 people from that local market, go work at a boutique shop to kind of weather out the storm. And I got another call from Wall Street. And I got asked if I would be willing to do kind of the Warren Buffett thing, which is to build another mortgage firm with some people that I had worked with in the past and combine my boutique shop with their shop in Jersey. And then I went on another 12-year ride building Annie Mac Home Mortgage with Joe
Mhm.
Penabianco and the managers there, Ryan Cuby, Jay Leibowitz. Um, and that brings you all the way to 2017, 2018,
Mhm.
where I ended up retiring from direct management within the mortgage industry. I was turning 50 that year
Mhm.
and deciding to do this, which was, by the way, not a surprise because I had a 10-year business plan to actually do exactly what I did, which was to leave direct mortgage management and launch a consulting firm. And
Mhm.
so, I just have always, along the way, I became a writer for the national mortgage magazines. I became a published author. Um, I have won a lot of sales contests. I would say I'm a fierce competitor. So what you see out there is a lot of hype, I think, around awards I received for competing in the area of sales and that sort of thing. And I guess
Mhm.
along the way, I also broke some glass ceilings, more or less accidentally, because I just really was always, I hope, the best person for the job. But I have been to trudge some paths that had not been trudged by women
Mhm.
prior to me. So yeah.
So you mentioned this plan that was in the works to start
Hmm.
the consulting business you have now. Tell me a little bit more about that. And when did
Yeah,
you know it was just that right turning point to
to
get this
do it.
business going? Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2006, when the downfall of HR Block was occurring, I ended up taking the summer off. I had a great severance after being with them for so long, 12 years. And it was a crazy time. The mortgage implosion was happening, and I was a little unsettled by the fact that I had just thought, 3 months prior, everything was great. And then all of a sudden, the bottom had fallen out. I had a baby in 2006. And so it was really a good time to be in a position to be able to stay home.
Mhm.
And I literally rented a home. I was living away from where I grew up, and I rented a home back on the lake that I grew up on. And it was just this like surreal summer where I just spent the whole summer not working, My mother actually had a brain aneurysm that summer. She survived it, but she was in a forced coma for a couple of months. So I was very fragile. I had lost a 12-year job, put myself out of work. I had a new gig called motherhood going on. My mom was sick. And I think all of these things, and I wasn't working, and I'm a workaholic. So like all of these things were all happening at once. And so what did I do every day to keep my sanity? I would write. And I just started writing. I was afraid I wouldn't remember all the things that had made me successful. So over that summer, as I began to write, I had no idea that what I was writing was my first book. Like I just wrote and I wrote. It was like Forrest Gump of writing was occurring in my life. Like I had decided to go out for a small run, and then I just like tapped into some geyser of writing. And so I would write and write and write and write and write.
Yeah.
And as that summer wore on, and I wrote, like most people that do write, you really, it's a cathartic process. And I discovered along the path of capsulating my success over the prior 10 years that I was a teacher. I thought, God, that's my calling. I'm a teacher. I like building education. I have a distinct relationship with it. I admire it. I respect it. I think I'm a good teacher. I get good results when I do teach, which is great. I can engage, people for long periods of accountability time, I discovered. And so all of these things lent to me deciding like, gee, maybe one day I'll coach or I'll be a consultant. And I actually decided that summer, what would be the name? I was trying to decide the name of my book, and I was spitballing names for my book, and I was writing them down, and I was testing them on Google and stuff and seeing what was out there. And then I did the same thing with a consulting firm. What would I name it? And so I ended up paying for the domain visionyoursuccess.net. And I did not bring that website to life. I paid for the annual fees for that domain for 10 years before it would come to life. So true story, proof actually of that. And so everyone always says when the year 2020 came and everybody overused the phrase 2020 vision for success, they're like, oh my God, like you named your company, because my company opened in 18 and they thought I was just on the bandwagon of what was happening. And I said, I've always had this name, and this name's going to live way past the year 2020. I hope. And that's what I did. And so I just didn't know where it was. I had an image in my mind that maybe when I went to work for the next company, I would work for them for 3 to 5 years, and then I'd start doing this. And then when I got to work doing what I was doing there, I thought, well, maybe I won't be doing this till I'm like 55. And then the perfect storm happened again for me in 2018, where I really came to terms with it being the right time. And I will tell you, it was like a Seinfeld thing, because I felt like I needed to go out on top. My career was still soaring. I was still winning. I was getting tons of accolades for my contributions to Annie Mac. I was winning industry accolades. I had won top 50 women award by MPA magazine, which was prestigious. And I had hoped to be there for 20 years in my career and to be named. I also knew I was coming of age at that point. So there you have it. I mean, that's kind of how it all came about.
Yeah, I liked what you were saying earlier too, about just how you're able to work with people and coach them. And, on your website, there's some testimonials too about that, right? That you've got this real gift. And so that I don't know, I don't feel like that's something you can train. But I'd imagine that you've brought that into your coaching practice and helping people. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that too.
Yeah. I mean, so all through my career, parts and pieces of my executive leadership, my regional district leadership, even branch manager, is obviously speaking and training. And so I didn't know I had a gift, I guess, for that until I would see the reactions of people when I would speak, or do a class. And so by the time I would decide that this is something I was good at, I ended up, really going through a process of evolution. The guys, I was surrounded by 98.5% men for 32 years, below me, beside me, and above me. And as a result of that, I literally, in the first decade of my career, was one of 178 originators, and I was the only female. and
Mhm.
one of 210 branch managers, and I was the only female. I mean, the numbers are staggering as to how few women there were in sales. If you
Mhm.
went over to the operation side, closing, underwriting, processing, it was not, those numbers were much better in those
Mhm.
areas. But for sales, they were really stark.
Mhm.
Um, and I would just say, like, the guys, kind of would say, "Oh, you're a cheerleader." I always seem to have like something, I was always quoting people. And I was, when I went to college, I wrote a thesis on interviewing Edgar Allan Poe. And I think I tutored in English, and I was a young author too. I was published in Cricket Magazine in grade school. I had an English teacher that
Mhm.
thought I had good writing skills. So somewhere inside me, I felt like there was probably always that author, teacher, writer, trainer type of
Yeah.
personality. So I don't know, um, I did the tagline for this company as emotional awakening
Mhm.
through education. I
Mhm.
believe that if you have an opportunity to sit down and teach a subject, you first have to provoke the audience into the belief of the subject that you're teaching.
Mhm.
It isn't enough to explain what and how something works,
Mhm.
but the why of why you should do it.
Mhm.
And, really tying in to what makes people soar. And so I'm a metaphoric teacher. I use tons of metaphors it's in my regular language, my everyday language, to kind of get people out of their heads, out of their elements, out of their situations, and to sit in light of things that they're struggling with, like delegation and just scaling and just all of the human evolution pieces.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising, 2020 Vision Consulting offers grief and loss counselors, health and wellness counselors. We're in the mortgage industry, and we're doing financial forensics, building out performers, P&Ls. We're teaching originators how to scale and be entrepreneurs. We're teaching formidable business planning, time management, economics, like the whole gamut of banking and real estate, finance, education, but for the human.
Yep.
So we look at you as the pilot of your business,
Mhm.
and you might be going through something. And so we're going to have the resources here to make sure you're healthy, mind, body, soul, as best we can.
Mhm.
And then we'll get down to tactical matter of running your business, because so many things that prevent people from being successful are the outlier type of things that are
Yep.
affecting,
Yeah,
you
that makes
know,
so much sense. And
yeah.
when you're, coaching these businesses, individuals, et cetera, are you helping to shape that strategy? Are you more trying to, get down to the root cause of why, of whatever issue, maybe it's a sales issue or a personnel issue, kind of what kind of conversations are you having with folks?
Yeah. It's funny because when I started 2020 and I started to really get closer to the day that we were going to open our doors, we
Mhm.
spent 18 months prior building the first deck of curriculum. So we had some substance and content, and I made it very tactically formidable for the entrepreneur that was building an origination system. I knew that's what would attract companies. I knew that's what would attract originating salespeople. It is where I had spent most of my career. Um, and I knew that my competitor very much had a box of training that they expected people to crawl into. And
Mm,
and it had limitations. Like, let's learn how to make cold calls. Let's
yeah.
learn how to convert leads. Let's learn how to talk to realtors. Let's learn how to do this. And it may have had a set or a couple subsets of educational tactical matter. And I thought, I'm not doing that. I'm going to build a college. I'm going to build it on modern terms, meaning you can train anywhere from the world in the world. The software that I would end up getting through Lightspeed VT is tagged the most virtual interactive training system on earth, which is a
Mhm.
bold statement, and it is. It's the Lamborghini of software. And so I went for it. Like, I'm like, this is going to be a scalable company, and it's going to be customizable. And so
Mhm.
I would tell you, we opened our doors kind of with the mindset that there are 1,000 different types of, people within our industry that are going to walk in with a very unique set of health circumstances for their business. And we need to be a hospital and like a drugstore at the same time. We're going to
Mhm.
have a resource center where we can send them to go get cold medicine and send them to get band-aids and send them to get Tylenol. but we're also going to have on deck doctors ready to work with those patients that have outlier conditions for their business. So we really do have a process. We figured it out of clients coming in and going through a formidable process of telling their story. Every person that comes here fills out something called the Blueprint for Success, which I authored. It's in my book, Wise Eyes, See Your Way to Success, the first book I wrote. It has 9 components of building out a business plan, and it's literally an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And when you're done, it is a complete ecosystem look at your business. Well, there is a first coach that's going to review that document with you, and they are then going to prescribe your first 90 days. There is formidable curriculum that's occurring. You do go through orientation. You are given a syllabus, just like school. You are giving an app on your phone and laptop that allows you to attend live classes, optional during the week with real instructors. And then you have the ability to do your one-on-one sessions with your counselors. And so all of this is occurring, and you are self-advocating yourself into the right places based on us saying, okay, this is what we see. The priorities for fixing your business are X. If you don't come bearing a lot of problems and you're just here to be at the gym and get more muscles and get more strong, get stronger, well, then that looks like a different path. And so we can write a prescription for literally endless amounts of people. Because what we did is we built an enormous resource center with all these professionals here and experts. And so the neat thing is people pay membership dues here, and then we write the checks to the doctors. So instead of you getting billed for every doctor you go to, you come here, you pay a membership, and you can talk to the doctors and not be billed. And it's under your membership, and we take care of it for you as part of your membership.
That's, did you just kind of figure this out by going through the process? I mean, it's one thing to start a business, right? It's another thing to be able to design it to scale and then build a team to do that and have the systems in place. How did you, I mean, that's you're at a place right now where you can tell that narrative, right? I mean,
some of it grew organically and out of us listening to what the client's needs were. And so, like I said, we had a subset of curriculum built, and we started with a small pool of consultants. And then we heard, oh, they need this, we need that. And we'd bring in this and we'd bring in that. And we followed the markets because we are economic advisors, and we followed the companies. And we just grew and stacked the resources. We still are. We believe that keeping memberships alive here is happening from our evolution of content. We have a syllabus of live certifications that go on by semester. So we're not teaching live business certifications in the summertime or in January. And so just like following a college school, there are classes going on all year long. And study halls, by the way, also going on. So there's, communities of people are gathering in our Zooms, and they're being managed by audio coaches to talk through points. We set the discussion points, and we put guest coaches in, and they come in. But the actual live semester of certification, we have a registration over the summer. We show the topics for the fall, and you can opt into up to 3 of the certifications with your membership. You also can go to the study halls. You can go to the monthly masterminds as part of your all access. And the virtual training has over 200 hours of formidable training. It's the culmination of over 100 executive consultants. And the libraries are rich. You could literally go find something on, I think at this point we have over 20 hours of digital marketing strategy. We have like 40 hours of financial forensic strategy. And so it depends on, it's like going to the library. Like, what are you here for? What are you studying to be? And so again, I guess because I started from a place where I said, I'm not going to be trying to compete with the one-man coaching shops. I'm going to be trying to create a resource center for professionals in our space. And I still think we're a best kept secret in our industry. And we have grabbed so much market share from our competition and are still growing, at a pretty big pace. So I feel blessed. It's been a complex puzzle to solve too. I would say that the hardest thing is that I once again entered a male dominated field of consulting and coaching. So
Mhm.
like I haven't had enough challenges. I decided to once again opt into that situation, which is
Yeah.
crazy. But I just haven't paid attention to, the noise or areas that haven't. I've always believed that we as women could do anything we put our minds to. I think we are the best choices for many things. And I just set the gender talk aside. I had many people say, what are you doing? I had people that were really scared that I was making a mistake or losing my mind because I was leaving a really great income in my previous job, of which a mountain I had climbed to get
Mhm.
there. And they were like, what are you doing? Coaching is saturated. Nobody needs more coaches. Like, it's these people. I'm watching coaches, starve to death out there trying to, there's a gazillion people that think they're coaches and say they're coaches. And
Yeah.
literally when they said it to me, I'm like, well, you don't believe in me as much as I believe in myself, clearly in this conversation. I have something special and I'm going to bring it and I'm going to grow it. And whoever wants to come can come. But I always knew I had something, and I'm not saying me personally on an egotistical level. I understood the complexity in the mortgage industry and real estate industry. And I saw the holes. Like,
Yep.
we do not have a school for loan origination. There are people that offer certain areas, but I just felt there's a need and there is a hole, and I'm
Mhm.
going to go fill that,
Yep.
and so I just had a lot of belief in the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. You have that bird's eye view. And so you can start to poke holes in it and see an opportunity for
Hmm.
improvement. So
Yeah.
and looking back, is there anything you would have done different or even looking ahead, anything that you want to grow or expand?
Yeah. So I'm still very strategic. I have always been strategic. Um, you know, Competing in 12-month sales contests are a long time to try to be the best at something or win the number one spot or even the top 5% when they're giving out awards. And I would kill myself to get those, more because I wanted to test the limits of myself. I kind of consider myself kind of like a mountain climber. People
Mhm.
ask all the time, why would you want to climb a mountain, to somebody? And I think I completely understand that mindset of like, I want to know if I can do it. Like, it's scary, but I'm going to learn everything I can. I just recently refurbished my great grandmother's waterfall 1920s dresser. I
Oh,
know nothing about furnishing, refurbishing.
mhm.
But I knew this fragile piece, this dresser, who I have an emotional memory of my great grandmother sitting in front of with her curlers and powder puff, big round powder puff thing that she had. I can just remember her sitting there making herself pretty and putting her lipstick on. And I was a little girl. And
Yeah.
when she died at 86 years old, she left me this bureau. And so I'm saying this to you because I knew it deserved to have a shine put on it, and I knew it deserved an expert to do it. And I thought somebody could hire it, but I could teach myself how to do it. And so
Mhm.
I just YouTube to death waterfall 1920 dresser remakes. And
Yeah.
I watched about 10 to 15 hours before I made my first move.
Holy
And
smokes.
then, yep. And then
Yep.
I started to do it. And I'm going to tell you, I have received offers. I also documented the process. I got on camera and said, I'm going to do something I've never done. And I started posting on the weekends, and people were tuning in. I had one weekend I didn't post the progress over 3 months of this dresser. And I had people like private messaging me saying, are we getting an update on the dresser? We can't wait to see how it looks. And it came out incredibly. I had people made me thousands of dollars of offers. It has this beautiful 1920s woman on the front in stencil, and it's
Mhm.
mahogany and it's gilded, and I preserved the mirror. And anyways, I took all my time. So I say this to you, I digress, because I believe that I have the mind of a person that's examining and analyzing things
Mhm.
always, and I'm scanning. So right now, 2022, we have a pivot in the market. We have an inventory issue on the purchase side. Interest rates have risen. We're at war. There's tons of equity. There's $32 trillion in equity, and mortgage originators are suffering because they've been shooting fish in a barrel for many years with the rates being low and an inbound type of sale that was already warm, driven by the consumer just because of the market wins. and wins, WINDS, wins in the sales of the economic markets. And it's the pivot this year, and it's a hard pivot. Loan officers themselves aren't quite sure how to have the economic conversation about taking equity, especially with people that don't have debt, and maybe have to raise their interest rate. And so we're here at 2020 to help those people across America have this conversation. We're in classrooms practicing this conversation, overcoming objections. And it means that my firm also has to steady and stable itself, because our client is a person that's declining in income right now, which is a direct threat to my consulting firm. And so what do? You look ahead and you say, where is the wind going? And you turn your sail. And so I am turning the boat of 2020 into the corporate wind. And I'm saying, hey, you want to retain your loan originators? Bring them the answers. We have the answers. And we're going to just continue to be here with the lights on, because we know there's going to be, some ships that are sinking this year and so on and so forth. So I think I'm just going to always be out here, with a passion, competing, proving that by example, even that when I opened my business 4 years ago, I had a no-fail option, because I was ironically entering a field where I was going to business coach people on how to run, scale, and have thriving businesses in a new market where my business had never existed, in a fishbowl with a no-fail option. Because if I can't build 2020, sustain it, scale it, how on earth would you hire me to tell you to do the same? And so that is the pressure I live with, but it's a pressure I'm happy to live with. And I would say, finally, I feel honored to live in my purpose. I feel honored when tested with the idea that giving education meant more to me than receiving a rich paycheck. That I actually answered that question with the greatest thing I could give back to myself in self-confidence and ROI. And that is that I am a good person, and that I do have my priorities straight. And I am an integral person. And I don't know that I always believe that about myself. So I think it's been really good for me, to do this. Yeah.
So this is so fun hearing about where you are today too. And just have one more question for you to wrap up.
Yeah,
here,
this is fun. I'm enjoying it. No problem.
A simple question. I don't know.
Sure.
We'll see if it's challenging or not, but if you could give, a sentence or two to define success for someone, what would be your kind of number one tip?
Yeah. That's a really loaded question with a company name like Vision for Success.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that, to me, I believe that if you seek happiness as your number one goal in life, you're going to find success. And I don't know what that is for people. And I will tell you, I chased a lot of things for a long time that I thought were my definition of success. But my greatest feeling of success has come from finding happiness and aligning myself with what it is that makes me very, very happy. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think you got to find your purpose in life. And I think we can do it in the mortgage industry and real estate industry too. It's still the American dream. There are countries we get to see, unfortunately, in this war, a bird's eye view of the suffering that isn't happening in the world. And beyond the lens that we're getting to peek into, there are countries where children are growing up and clothing and housing and education are things that they seek. And I think we have to remember, that those principle-based things, are what humans really want to have at the end of the day. Security. They want to feel good about themselves. They want to further their minds and busy their minds. And I feel really good to be in a space where we're giving the American dream, which is the shelter factor. And today I'm helping people, make their businesses thrive through education. And so I feel like I'm really aligned in the right places to be principally based. I think our whole industry is. In fact, I think finance is a wonderful space for people to really find their purpose. And that's it. We forget that part. And I think that's why people that I managed soared, because I always made them remember what we were doing, not how we were doing it necessarily. It was why are we doing this? And that purpose truly propelled people in my mind, and still
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that team effort, right? So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
I hear you. Well,
Awesome.
gosh, thank you so much for your time and sharing a little bit more. I know there are so many resources and books that you've authored and other quotes. We'll make sure to include them in the show notes below. But again, appreciate your time. Thank you for all you're doing in this industry and helping to inspire people. And yeah, just purposeful steps forward to success, which is great to see you not only being a part of, but you've built an entire company around it. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me. I always feel so appreciative to find other business women like myself that are out there that are helping us all share our stories, and it's fun to be reminded of the journey and to have a moment to look back, which I don't get to do every day. So these moments allow me to be appreciative and leave with gratitude. So thank you for giving me that moment as well.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you again, and we'll be in touch soon.
Sounds great.